Equal justice under the law must mean that every American receives equal treatment in every encounter with law enforcement, regardless of race, color, gender, or creed. They have to receive fair treatment from law enforcement. They have to receive it. We all saw what happened last week. We can't let that happen. Hopefully George is looking down right now and saying, this is a great thing that's happening for our country. This is a great day for him. It's a great day for everybody. This is a great day for everybody. This is a great, great day in terms of equality. It's really what our Constitution requires, and it's what our country is all about. I just want to finish by saying, to save the economy, we passed several pieces of critical legislation totaling many trillions of dollars, meaning 3. We're set up to do more if we want. I think we should, because we are dominant. For many years, as a bystander, but somebody that loved government, somebody that loved this country, I would watch and study and see, and just, when I say study, naturally study by watching. But if you go back, China was going to catch us in 2019. And that was like a given. You go back 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. It was always, China will catch America, catch the United States, and in 2019, and then it'll become the dominant economy. Never happened. It's not going to happen. We dominated them over the last year and a half, 2 years.
To be clear about what's happening here, this is Donald Trump invoking George Floyd's name to congratulate himself at a press conference where he brags about the unemployment rate dropping from 14.7% to 13.3%, which, by the way, was only ever that high to begin with because of his own failed response to the pandemic. There is so much tone deafness piled on top of incompetence here that it is impossible to know where to start. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know what George Floyd would be thinking, but I truly don't think he'd be concerned about the jobs report. And beyond that, I don't think he'd be over the moon about his memory being exploited by the guy who actually promoted police brutality. Trump has literally encouraged police officers to rough people up.
I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
In other words, the guy who encouraged police brutality is trying to co-opt a movement condemning police brutality, in case the hypocrisy wasn't already clear. Consider too that while Trump is up there grandstanding about how all Americans, regardless of race, gender, color, and creed, should receive fair treatment by law enforcement, that only days ago it was Trump who ensured that peaceful protesters be gassed and forcibly removed to clear the way for his photo op. And yet, somehow, we're being lectured by that guy about fair treatment under the law. The guy who gassed American citizens exercising their constitutional right so that he'd have some footage for a propaganda video. You couldn't find a worse messenger here if you had Matt Gaetz warning about drinking and driving. But this is what Trump does. He uses props, even if those props are diametrically opposed to what he actually represents. He used a Bible as a prop, even though the guy is the definition of a false prophet, and I'm no expert on the Bible, but I'm pretty sure its position on false prophets isn't stellar. He used the church across the street from the White House as a prop. Again, not entirely sure the corrupt, cheating, greedy Donald Trump is exactly aligned with the values of the church. And now he's using George Floyd as a prop, even though George Floyd was killed by the same forces that Donald Trump himself has cheered on. Even though Donald Trump's presidency is predicated on racist dog whistles and exacerbating tribalistic differences and emboldening white nationalists. His shamelessness here truly knows no bounds. By the way, let's just take a look at the basis for Trump's self-congratulatory speech, that the jobs report was phenomenal and that the economy is roaring back. First of all, we went from 14.7% unemployment to 13.3% unemployment. It is still the highest it's been since the Great Depression. And what's worse, while touting these numbers and invoking the name of George Floyd, is that black unemployment actually went up from 16.7% to 16.8%. Not that the unemployment rate means anything for racial equality in this country, but Trump's speech sounds all the more absurd when you consider that black Americans are actually worse off in the report that Trump is celebrating. But what makes this entire thing ring most false is that Trump has just arbitrarily decided that everything is fine now. And we've seen this before, when he pretended that coronavirus was no big deal, that it was going away, that it was completely contained, when it was that very denial of reality that exacerbated the problem. And he did it because he was more interested in protecting the economy than the American people. And now he's doing it again. He knows he's got an election coming up and his poll numbers are plummeting because of his handling of these protests. And so he's just arbitrarily decided that everything is wonderful. It's all fixed and everyone's happy and George Floyd is looking down smiling, even though nothing has actually changed and Americans are still taking to the streets on a daily basis, because he's more interested in gaslighting the American people than acknowledging what is actually happening in the real world. So when Trump absurdly claims that this is a great day for George Floyd, know that it's not, because George Floyd is dead and more black men just like him will die due to a system that Trump himself approves of, that Trump himself cheers on, that Trump himself props up. This is a great day for George Floyd in the same way that Trump has made America great, which is to say, not great in the slightest. If you like that video, please check out my brand new podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll cover the most important political stories of the week and interview major players in the world of politics. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out and subscribe now.